Hello, this is Breakfast with Bill Turnbull and Susanna Reid.
After the resignation of the BBC's Director General, a row over his payoff.
Well, Carol will have a weather forecast for us in a few minutes. Meanwhile, in an economic crisis, it can be hard for small businesses to get funding from the banks.
Steph's at a factory in Lancashire this morning, benefiting from a growing alternative. It's called peer-to-peer lending. And Steph, can I take you back to that news we were telling you this morning about a British soldier killed by a man wearing an Afghan police uniform in southern Afghanistan?
Yes, let's talk to our correspondent Caroline Wyatt about that. She's in Helmand. Caroline, good morning. Tell us what happened first. Indeed, Caroline Wyatt reporting from Helmand this morning.
17 minutes past 6, this is Breakfast. These are the main stories this morning.
Carol, we'll see you a bit later on.
21 minutes past 6, an increase in fuel tax, never popular. But when the Chancellor announced he was planning another threepenny rise during the summer, there was so much opposition it was postponed until January.
But with the new year fast approaching, money's still tight for families in the UK, and it is hoped that the government will decide to postpone the rise in duty for a second time. And MPs are going to be debating that today. Well, we've sent Graham Satchell to a petrol station in Warwickshire for us this morning. 26 minutes past 6, still to come on Breakfast this morning. It's not often you'll hear Bill say these words.
But they were very nice.
Were they?
Actually,
Were they kind
but you
to
see,
you?
1 against 5, I was outnumbered. We've also got some special guests in the studio. Someone else doing their bit for children in need. These people.
Auctioned on Thursday. Christie's, and last year's auction of bears raised more than £50,000.
Well, these are bigger. Surely they've got to be worth more than that.
Yes.
Time now to get news, travel and weather. Where you are, more of the bears later. Sally's here with all the sport.
Morning.
Poor old Andy Murray, not so popular last night. Now, I'm being a bit dramatic. He was heckled a little by the crowd, sections of the crowd in the O2. Of course, he lost to Roger Federer. Everybody really loves to watch Roger Federer play tennis. He's such a great watch, plays so beautifully.
You know, he's got his own song.
Go on.
Thanks very much. Media commentator Steve Hewlett. Steve, very good morning to you. Talking about restoring trust and faith in the BBC, all the headlines this morning about George Entwistle's payoff after resigning from the job of Director General. Do they undermine that faith in the public's view?
Well, look, on where the corporation goes from here, what do you think step one should be?
Well,
one of the issues that arose when George Entwistle was doing his interviews was, can one person be responsible for the journalism, broadcasting and output of 20,000 plus other people? Is there an opportunity or a reason to somehow give responsibility to somebody else in the management structure?
Well, look, first,
Steve, thanks very much. Steve Hewlett.
You're welcome.
And while there is lots of discussion, of course, about who was responsible for that Newsnight investigation into child abuse, it's very important not to forget the victims at the heart of all this reporting. So
later we'll be speaking to a charity which supports people who've been abused in childhood. That's in about half an hour's time.
Now there's 6:44. Let's update you on our headlines so far, and that is our main story.
Now let's get a look at the weather. Here's Carol.
Morning. Good morning. Lovely, Carol, thank you.
Normally, if you want to borrow a large amount of money, you go to a bank or a building society, but an alternative type of lending between individuals and businesses has been growing in popularity. Now, Lancashire County Council claims to be the first authority in the UK to invest in a practice known as peer-to-peer lending. Well,
Steph has gone to a factory in Lancashire which has benefited and can explain more. Morning, Steph.
Cheers, Steph. Thanks very much. See you later.
Now, there are a few who could have predicted 10 years ago, when 5 unknown girls won a TV talent competition, just how successful Girls Aloud would go on to be.
But their time as a group appeared to have run its course when Nadine moved to the States and all of the girls took on solo projects.
Now, though, they're back together with a new tour and a new album. But if it's only Girls Aloud, how will Bill fare against the famous 5 in their first interview since announcing their reunion? Should we find out? Here we go.
Can you believe Kimberly was on the dance-off last night?
I can't believe it. I want to see more of that move, that Children in Need move you did for Chicago.
Chicago. I'd forgotten all about that. And there were good reasons why. The official Children in Need single, Something New, is out on Friday. Girls Aloud's Greatest Hits compilation 10 is out later this month.
Very glamorous they looked, fabulous. Joined by 4 other glamorous guests this morning. Caroline Wyatt, who's in Helmand province. Caroline, good morning. Tell us what happened. Caroline, thanks very much. Caroline Wyatt reporting. There has been so much coverage, of course, about the journalism in this story. But do you think that this may have an impact on the victims of abuse?
Well,
Peter?
Thank you very much. Yes, Peter Saunders, National Association for People Abused in Childhood. Thank you for your time this morning.
It is now 7:15. Still to come on the programme this.
So 16 minutes past 7. Let's find out about those temperatures. And Carol's there. Morning, Carol.
Just a wee bit colder. All right then. Carol, thanks very much. Even gets booed.
Gets booed, yeah. The ATP World Tour Finals. The atmosphere in the O2, it's not like Wimbledon, you know. It's not genteel at all. It gets quite rowdy. It's quite good fun. Yeah, he got heckled during a couple of serves.
Too rude, is it rude?
I think we might have opened a can of worms there. Shall we get a weather forecast now with Carol? Morning, Carol.
Some very quick thoughts coming in actually on that discussion about Nadine Dorries. Tracy, if I took time off work without approval, I'm sure I'd be sacked. Lots of other people saying that.
Steve says, don't you think it's kind of ugly when politicians get down with the kids? I think that this stunt has backfired on her. And David has got in touch by email to say, can't see a problem with it. You could probably send all our MPs there. For what use they are.
How can you get hold of money if you're a business and a bank won't lend it to you particularly? Well, it's happening, a new system is happening in Lancashire, and Steph's at a factory which has benefited from it.
They said.
The official Children Need single Something used out on Friday. Girls Aloud's Greatest Hits compilation 10 is out later this month. I saw some pictures there I never want to see again. You know, the Chicago thing?
We know which pictures you're talking
about. I'd forgotten
about.
all about those.
The rest of us haven't. Coming up on the programme later, and it's time.
Mr. Davis, good morning.
Good morning.
A year's salary, too much entirely, in your view?
The argument, which the BBC Trust uses as an explanation, that the final settlement will include the fact that George Entwistle still, even though he's resigned from the position, will have to perform certain duties. He has to go to these inquiries, be accountable, make an explanation for what happened.
You have no evidential grounds for saying that, really, do you?
No, but it begs the question.
Moving on from that particular issue, where do you think the BBC needs to move now in terms of restoring trust?
Now, why you're saying that other heads...
Thanks very much for joining us this morning. Today, the new Acting Director General will set out his plans to deal with the crisis at the corporation. That's Tim Davie, of course. And our correspondent, Nick Hyam, joins us from outside the BBC's central London studios. Nick, good morning. Well, plenty of criticism of Lord Patten, as we've just heard. One wonders what Tim Davie can do to steady the ship.
And Nick, just at a time when clarity is needed on all of those issues, it seems the waters have been muddied this morning with news of the payoff that George Entwistle is going to be receiving.
Thanks very much, Nick Hyam.
18 minutes past 8. You're watching Breakfast, still to come on the programme this morning. Bill is always on it. Morning, Carol.
Good morning. Mixed bag.
Yes, indeed. All right, Carol, thanks very much.
22 minutes past 8. Space indeed, because Heather Mills joins us now from London. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Just tell us a little bit about those injuries.
An alien, one or the other.
Yeah, well, or you have a strong constitution and you're taking care of yourself. Yeah. What are your chances of qualifying and actually getting there?
But if it's ice, it's fine.
Yeah, you only took up skiing at the age of 21. I mean, so what made you decide suddenly, right, I'm going to go for gold at the Paralympics?
Well, I
try not to break too many more bones, Heather.
No, I know. There's not many left anyways.
Right.
I'm mainly made of metal now.
Thanks very much.
To great medical care. Heather, thanks very much indeed. She must be getting a different train to me if it takes longer to get from London to Manchester than to Austria.
Coming up, BBC News Channel has the latest news from home and abroad.
Here on Breakfast, though. Yes, normally it's just 2 or 3 at one time, isn't it?
Yeah, 5 in one goes.
You weren't really scared of them.
Not by the time we finished.
Good.
Sophie, thank you. Watchdog Daily starts this morning, 11 o'clock on BBC One.
Well, there are a few people who could have predicted 10 years ago, when 5 unknown girls won a TV talent competition, just how successful Girls Aloud would go on to be.
But their time as a group appeared to have run its course when all of the girls took on solo projects. Now, though, they're back with a new tour and album. But if it's only Girls Aloud, how did Bill get on with the famous 5? It's their first interview since announcing their reunion.